Hello, and welcome to a Season 1 episode of Beyond Teaching, a new series featured on the PsychSessions network. This series is hosted by Susan Nolan from Seton Hall University, Adelinka Akinseler-Smith from City College of New York, City University of New York, Asani Sewell from Pacific University, and yours truly, Eric Landrum from Boise State University. Through informal discussions and email exchanges, what we discovered and agreed upon is that to be a successful academic or professional, it takes more than teaching, research, or clinical skills. That is, today's psychology professionals were not taught everything they need to know in graduate school. How do you find a mentor in your career path? And what do you do if that mentoring relationship turns sour? What are the strategies for dealing with Zoom fatigue, both for you and your students? How do you learn to say no, whether that is for a job offer, a student's letter of recommendation request, or a potential committee assignment? How do you choose what journal to submit your work to, and how do you deal with cranky reviewers? These topics and more are discussed in the Season 1 episodes that are now being released spring and summer of 2021. In future seasons, we'll be inviting guest experts to join us, and we have a host of topics to discuss regarding areas of our jobs that no one ever prepared us for. Now, I don't mean that to sound cranky or anything, but there really is a lot that no one ever told us, right? And so that's what this podcast is all about, taking us beyond teaching. Hi, welcome to another episode of Beyond Teaching. I'm Eric Landrum, and I'm going to let my co-hosts introduce themselves.
I'm Susan Nolan.
I'm Yinka Kinchler-Smith.
Asani Sewell.
And we have a special guest today with today's episode. We have Garth Neufeld from Cascadia College. Hi, Garth.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to see you all again.
Welcome, Garth.
And
Hi.
we have invited Garth to join us today because there are often times that faculty members think about hosting a conference or starting a conference, whether it could be a campus-based event, statewide, regional, even perhaps sometimes national. And we know that Garth has the expertise to pull this off. He is the founder of TIP Northwest, Teaching Introductory Psychology Northwest. And so, Garth, if you wouldn't mind kind of starting us off and telling us a little bit about the origin story of why in the world did you think you needed to start a conference, and then how that all came about?
Well, I think it's complex. I think that, first of all, I realized attending conferences, and I think we've all been a part of these professional groups where we've found some amount of, home or identity or some support or something like that. And it's been really important to us. Pretty early in my career, I saw that this was, these were my people, and I'd gotten so much out of it. And there used to be a teaching psychology conference in the Pacific Northwest. So I had attended it a couple times, but they passed that off to different people to organize, and it just got dropped over time. I'm trying to make this succinct, but I had also been at Psych 1 at Stanford, and I had seen that there was a real desire for intro psych specific programming. Now we know, after doing a survey last year through the Intro Psych Initiative, that mostly people don't have any training that is intro psych specific. And they're teaching the classes, and some of our least prepared instructors are teaching the most sections of intro psych. And so that's part of the reason. There was an audience for it, so there's demand for it. So I was fairly certain that it could be successful. And then there was a history that I could lean into. I also had great mentors at Highline College, people who were supporting me. Highline College gave us the space to do it and has ever since, which is fantastic. There are great grants out there that really helped us along to get started, which was wonderful. But then there was this other piece, and I guess this is the more ambitious or selfish or whatever piece, which is I didn't have tenure. and I needed some way to set myself apart. I was applying for full-time jobs and I was not getting called back for them. And so I needed a way to invest in the teaching of psychology community, and I needed to learn some skills and make some connections, honestly. And it's funny, when I started doing that, other doors started opening for me. I started making different decisions, and eventually my CV started floating to the top of those interview piles, and I started getting calls, and I was a finalist a couple times, and then finally landed a tenure track position. Those are kind of, I kind of fumbled my way through that, but that's the backstory of Tip Northwest.
Could I ask you, Garth, what would be your top 3 things that you think people should think about if they are trying to start a conference?
Yeah, funding, I think, is the first one. You you just can't and that can come from grants, and that can come from the people who are going to attend. And so, very related to that, I would say the second one off the top of my head is there an audience for what you're doing? So will people show up? I think a second question is, will people pay for it? And then the third thing, which I didn't do, which I would do now, is, are there people that share your passion for this that you can create a committee with? I started doing it for the first 4 years or so. I just did it on my own. And I wouldn't recommend that. But you know what? Sometimes it worked out for me. So I would say find a group of people who can ease the burden for you a little bit and share the burden.
I was going to ask you that question, Garth. You led right into it about you've been using the words "we" and "us" an awful lot as you've been talking about your experiences with the conference. And what other collaborations have you forged along the way that have made this possible? The committee you just mentioned, but are there any other kinds of people or types of people that one should think about collaborating with when you're doing this sort of work?
Yeah, I mean, if I had to be honest, I think I looked at what Bridget Martin Hard had built over at Psych One, and I thought, well, there's a big enough audience that I can take this idea without completely feeling like I'm stealing from her. And then she moved to the East Coast, which made things a little more comfortable, I think, for me, because she was doing such a great job. So I was looking at these mentors and models of people who were doing it successfully and really trying to understand what they were doing. So folks like her, but also the generosity of the Society for the Teaching of Psychology. You know, I think, Eric and Susan, did I bring you out the same year? No, different years. Okay, different years. But here are these people who I didn't know at all. Regan Gurung, and Eric Landrum and Susan Nolan and Jane Hallen and so many other people who just said yes when I invited them out. They came, and I no one knew Garth Neufeld. I was just somebody who started a conference up, and they did that. So I guess, like, getting myself into these teaching of psychology communities where people are passionate about the cause, it was easier to reach out and invite them to be a part of it. So
It was for undergrad, intro psychology, but I'm wondering about ways of possibly bringing students into it.
yeah, that's really interesting. I think this is, I'm going to talk like I know what I'm talking about. So I'd say that being at a community college, we have our students for such a short period of time. And I've got to say, I'm not in the Psi Beta world. And so I'm sure that somebody who had a good, and for those of you who don't know, Psi Beta is the community college sort of version of Psi Chi. Those are really student focused organizations. And because I'm not in Psi Beta, here's my uninformed opinion, which is students move so quickly through the community college system, and it's usually a commuter kind of campus, and they are not involved on campus in activities generally. I think it's very challenging to get, and by the way, I agree with you. I think it's really important to get those students activated and learning. The reason I haven't done it yet is I think it's going to be challenging. So when you think about one of those big 3 things, audience, right? I'm not sure that there is the audience, but now I'm thinking we pull from a lot of four-year institutions actually for Tip Northwest. I mean, last year before we were canceled by the pandemic, I think we were close to have like 90 attendees, and we're a regional conference. And that has grown every year. Maybe I could ask back to you, how do you think a conference like this, even an intro-psych conference, could help students? If I could just mine you for yeah.
I'm just thinking of our setting where Intro to Psych is one of the largest classes. It's not one I teach, but I know other colleagues do. And I'm just thinking about students who have gone on, who might be interested in graduate school down the line, coming on as a TA, shadowing, learning how to, the skill of teaching, might be an opportunity for them.
I am now having all these thoughts like, what if the folks who are coming, what if we asked them to send out invitations to their graduate students, to their undergraduate students, if they had anybody in mind? Like, why couldn't they just fully participate in a conference like this? Not maybe as an undergraduate like poster session or something like that, although there's nothing wrong with that, but maybe just as if they see this as a part of their future in their career, they're probably going to teach intro psych if they're going to
another
work
form
in
of mentoring. Yeah.
It makes me think about the Association for Psychological Sciences conference, where they have the Bring the Family address. And it would be fun to think about having you would call it something different, and bring the students, whatever, but a student-friendly keynote that would be great for everybody. I mean, the Bring the Family addresses at APS are super friendly to everyone, no matter what level you are. And I can see that as a really fun way to have students have something really cool to look forward to if they're going to the more nuts and bolts teaching related sessions too.
I was thinking about, while you were saying that, how much I've gotten out of kind of all faculty meetings when they do something like a student panel. I love hearing from our students. And I think you're right. I think we're onto something where folks who would attend a teaching conference would love to hear what students are thinking about who are planning to maybe do graduate work in psychology someday.
Hey, Garth, I know that when you started Tip Northwest, I know you well enough to make this presumption that you didn't start it to get something personally out of it. I'm sure you saw a need. You saw that one conference kind of faded away. You saw what Bridget Martin Hard was doing, and you wanted to replicate that for the audience in the Pacific Northwest. But I think as it happened, that you probably did reap some professional benefits that were personal to you. Some good things did happen. You made some connections that might have had payoffs. Are you comfortable talking about those and mentioning those things, that even though you didn't walk into it so that you would get a deal or this or that, it did happen? I think sometimes good things happen that are unexpected and unanticipated. Someone does a lot of hard work and the thing happens, and then you get noticed and three more things happen 4 years later.
Yeah. No, Eric, I was just lucky, actually. Okay. Sorry, I had to bait
some
him.
people have trigger words, and that's one of mine. Thank you, Bill.
Oh no, I'm so blessed by what has come from Tip Northwest. It gave me the opportunity to just watch, to watch great people, to learn from them, and because I was all of a sudden corresponding nationally with APA, I learned how to write grants, and then just started having these communications with folks. And yeah, the other day I was just reflecting on how in the world did I get picked by somebody with an APA to be a co-chair for the introductory psychology initiative. Like, how did that happen? How did somebody look at me and say, oh, he should be nominated for the American Psychological Association? Oh my gosh, I'm going to forget the name of it. It's in my room here somewhere. Hold on.
Well, there's so many books there. I don't know how you could find it. So how in the world are you going to find the title?
For the listeners, Garth has a virtual bookcase behind him.
Well, I'm going to edit that part out, but
With many
books,
many
part.
books on many
But
shelves.
How did I get nominated for a Citizen Psychologist Award through the American Psychological Association? None of that happens without Tip Northwest. Thank you, Linda Wolf. None of these things happen without it. And I was just reflecting on, we talk about imposter syndrome a lot on Psych Sessions. I've never really divulged my own, but it's 100% there. I could tell you all the reasons why I shouldn't be in these positions. I've got a master's degree and not a PhD. When I'm in conversations with people like you, there are areas that I just have no idea about in academia, just because my experience is so different. And being at a community college, and all these things I can think about as strikes against me, but I've never been made to feel that way. In fact, it's really nice that people actually don't care about that stuff. What they care
I just
about
want
is
to I want to flip it, Garth, actually, because those are voices we need in the room. In fact, with the committees I've been on, we're often looking for somebody with the community college experience. Community colleges are like the backbone of American education, higher education. And so I would flip it and say that the qualities that you're bringing are actually very much wanted in a lot of rooms.
Well, thanks for that. And I will think about that, and I do hear it. Yeah. So Eric, yeah, this has paid off. This paid off in a friendship with you, where I was able to bring an idea, or where we mutually brought an idea about Psych Sessions together. And this has given me the green light to try a bunch of things. This, we do a pre-conference workshop at ACT, the annual conference on teaching, STP's teaching conference. We do a pre-conference workshop now called Top Inc., which I'm so passionate about. It's an incubator for non-traditional ideas in the teaching of psychology, and people just, they give you green lights after a while, after you've done some things. Now, sometimes there's red lights, but yeah.
Can I do an extra ad for STP here? Because STP actually has grants for teaching conferences, especially if you're starting off something new. They're not ginormous grants, but there are a number of grants every year, and we would love to have more people applying for them to try new and innovative things.
Yep. STP offers grants. You should check out the Associations for Psychological Science small grant fund. That's I think David Myers works with them to do that. There are pockets of money out there to start, and you really don't need that much. If you have a little bit of support, and you can start small as a conference organizer. Start with 20 people. There's no shame in that, and then start to build it. And really, I think there's a stick-to-itness about a successful conference of just showing up and doing the work. Last year we got canceled because of the pandemic. This year the committee talked about it, and we said we need to stay in the minds of people. None of us were really excited about doing a virtual conference, but we took those lemons and we made some lemonade. It's happening in April, and we're going to pull off this really engaging, awesome conference. I'm really proud of it, and I didn't think that would happen.
And Garth, just out of curiosity, how much will it cost to attend that conference?
That conference is free to attend. There's a wait list now.
I was going to say, I think it's quote unquote sold out.
It is, but go to www.tipnorthwest.org, and we are still accepting, I think we have some spots available for the opening session, where we're going to talk about the new student learning outcomes by APA's Intro Psych initiative. And you'll get to hear a keynote talk by Dr. Bridget Martin Hard,
Awesome.
who we love. So, yeah. So you can sign up there.
Well, thank you, Garth, for joining us today.
It is my absolute pleasure. I think that'll be it.